Joe, three.
The transition is 1.3, but if you take out the fourth quarter, which is considered garbage time in the NBA, it's not 1.3. It's like 10th in the league. And then the transition rate is like 8th in the league. And so it's a little bit of a skewed stat, but we do have to get better at transition defense.
Yeah, and I meant pregame, not offensive rebounding enough.
Yeah. But that's how the transition stat kind of gets skewed, is you got to take out the whole fourth quarter was a dunk fest in Washington.
Mm-hmm.
But it was,
So without Sam now 3 games in, you mentioned pregame going double big a little bit more, went with Jordan a little bit in this game and some single big. What's that process been like of trying to find a second unit without Sam out there?
it's not trying to find one. We have it. The second unit is the whole bench. So we're not trying to find it. To me, we make it very clear from the beginning of the season how important those group of guys are. And it's going to look different every night. And it's a credit to them because they stay ready, and it's a credit to the staff for getting them ready. So it's not about finding it. It's like that group of like the Nemi, the Jordan, the Luke, the X. As you saw, we sent X to the table. They changed their sub pattern. We brought Luke to the table, or vice versa. And so it's just a credit to them. They have a humility and a professionalism to always be ready, and we're just always going to do what makes sense at that particular time. And so they, after coming off a back-to-back and Lillard's foul trouble, they went to some different lineups, and so we had to do the same. And we just have to stay adaptable. So they're all giving us exactly what we need. It's just going to look different at different times.
And for Jaylen, did you notice a difference from the Detroit shooting struggles? A little bit of a slow start in this game and then closing 9 of 11?
Yeah, I mean, Jalen's just a guy that can score in bunches, and he's I think in saying the Detroit game, again, we saw different defenses tonight, and I'm sorry, in the Detroit game, and I think that was my fault. We weren't quick to pick up on that and change that. Tonight they changed a little bit, but I think Jalen's ability to just kind of stay right here, and he picks and chooses his spots really well. He knows when to take over a game. He knows when to get to his spot. He came out of a timeout, he got an and one, and he just knows how to play within the offense. So I like just watching him picking spots well, and I thought he did a great job of that in the second half.
Joe, it was a back-and-forth game most of the night. Then you get to the end of the third quarter. You see Derek sort of have that big stretch, and then Jordan Walsh have those 2 big hustle plays. Yeah. How big was that energy boost for you, especially when you hear the crowd go nuts like they did?
Yeah, I mean, and I told that to Jordan in the locker room. I think just finding out a role and making big-time plays like that is huge. So he had some defensive. I thought he had a great defensive play on Giannis in the post, taking away his tendency. And, got fouled going up for an offensive rebound. So, I mean, that's like you have to win games like that, especially against good teams. It's never just going to – sometimes it's got to be gritty. It's got to be ugly. So I thought they did a good job of doing that.
Joe, the 80-79 when Lillard hits the technical on the delay of game, it seemed like there was a lot of frustration building up to that moment. There was a lot of, like, chirping at the refs and all of that. Was that like a moment of it coming to a head and guys just saying, we're not going to win this thing. We've got to focus on ourselves. What happened in that moment that kind of seemed to, like, guys rallied around that moment to take that?
No frustration. We were just like, let's just try to create as much chaos as we can. That was it.
What made you decide like that?
I just felt like that's what we felt like the environment needed at the time. It was just create chaos. So we're just going to create it. And then we just created the chaos together. We went through the chaos together. Responded pretty well.
Before Payton hit that
because nobody had any idea what was going on, right? Just chaos. Yeah, it's perfect. It's exactly what we needed.
When Payton hit that buzzer-beating 3, as soon as the ball got inbounded to him, Doc just had his head down, hands on his knees, despondent. Yeah. How do you like when you just see people react to Payton that way?
I didn't see that, but I just think it's a credit to Payton. I mean, a lot of guys won't take that shot, but he just takes pride in it. I mean, the guy's just good. I mean, I thought he kept us in it in the first half, and he's just finding different ways to impact the game. Tonight it was his shooting and his defense. Sometimes it's his passing, but the kid's just a competitor. So I love watching him play.
Did you see the clip of him playing some kid one-on-one at the park the other day?
No.
Do you encourage your players just to play people one-on-one at the park, always be hooping at all moments?
No, I encourage them to just really just be themselves.
Just back onto Payton for a second. You mentioned kind of the versatility and diversity of things that he brings to the game. Is there a particular thing that stands out to you about him that you particularly enjoy?
His competitive nature, I think, is number one. I think just his ability to just go in and out of different roles. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't care what the circumstance, the sub-pattern. He doesn't give really two shits about anything other than just competing at the highest level. So that, to me, is just he's a purist competitor, and so I really appreciate that about him.
Joe, how did you feel like you competed against a contender, a team that, they're coming off a back-to-back, but they've got two obviously top 75 players? I mean, how do you think you kind of handled the situation?
That's an interesting question. Why? How did you think we handled the situation?
I thought fine. I mean, they pushed you. I mean,
Yeah.
but is that what you were looking for? Obviously, everything's not going to be easy, but this was.
Yeah.
It was going to be a struggle. It seemed like.
No, definitely. It was definitely going to be a struggle. I kind of liked the fact that it was a back-and-forth game the entire time because, you just have to, again, you just got to go through it, whatever it is that you have, whether you got to protect a lead, you got to come back from a lead, you got to just go back and forth. So I really liked, even when the environment got a little crazy, we never wavered from our half-court defensive execution. And I think that's kind of the telltale sign of your team is, like, regardless of what's going on around you, can you execute? And and again, I think I said this in the pregame, like, these two guys on the other side, they're going to hit tough shots and just do freakish things. Like, you just can't overreact to that, to which they did some of that. And I thought we just kind of stayed right here from a tactical and a technical standpoint. And there was some friction there that we had to work through. So I thought that was great. And, yeah.
And Jason didn't get to the line till I think the last 4 minutes or whatever. He seemingly was frustrated with the lack of calls. How do you kind of, you got another tech. How do you kind of make sure he maintains his poise when there's nights and he feels like he's been fouled?
I mean, I think he did maintain his poise from this. I mean, he maintained his poise from the standpoint of, like, he played defense, he rebounded, he guarded Brook Lopez, he ran the plays, he executed them. I mean, I like yelling at those guys too. So I mean, I'm certainly not gonna stop him from doing it. But once if he stops executing our system and our that's when it becomes more of an issue. But I think he kind of stayed, there most of the time.
Joe, the challenges, you went to one very early in the first and very early in the third, and as luck would have it, there were many opportunities after that to
Yeah.
get challenges. What was the strategy there?
I agree with you. It's a tough one, and I'm usually hesitant on the second one. But against a team like that and the way the game was going, when it's obvious 2 point, when you're saving obvious 2 points, you have to take advantage of that, and you can't really have, hindsight is like, well, we would have got we saved 4 points. We saved 2 points on the goaltend, and we would have saved their expected offense is really good. And so we probably saved around 3.8 points on that, and so, like, you have to do that. Doesn't matter what time of the game or the value. So when they're that obvious, you have to do them more times than not. Because even on some of the ones that we felt like we wanted to, I'm not convinced that they would have been overturned. You know what I mean? And so if you find two, you got to go get them.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks.